Hey guys, Corey here again, and tonight I'm going to start disassembling this thing. Last video I talked about what I'm planning on doing with it, and now it's time to get started. Servos came in today. I ordered 2 of these. They're the Towered Pro MG9 946R Metal Gear servos. Nothing crazy high end. You can get them off eBay for super cheap from China. That's where I got it. Figured, you know, everything, all your RC stuff, unless it's made by like a local, like your skid plates or something, made by a local machinist, CNC machinist, something like that. Most of your mass-produced RC stuff comes from China. So, I mean, you might as well order directly from there. Unless you know somebody who has a hobby store. I mean, obviously you want to support local businesses. That's always good. But this is a budget build from roller to racer to see, you know, I guess to kind of show that you don't have to have a ton of money. If you're patient, you know where to look. You don't have to have a ton of money to do this. But I mean, you need a little bit, but it's not impossible. Anyway, so yeah, servos came today. I'm still waiting on the charger. It was supposed to come today, and these weren't supposed to come. Well, they said the latest the servos were supposed to come was like 3 days away. And the charger was supposed to for sure be here today, and it's not here today, so kind of upset about that. But don't necessarily need it right now, but I would like to have all the parts. Anyway, so probably gonna pull off the servo and start disassembling the front and rear. Gotta get that old spur gear out of there. Just kind of get into some pieces. Probably won't break it. If it's not a moving part, I probably won't pull it off. But anyway, alright. Just give me a minute and I should have this thing into pieces. Alright. So I got tires pulled off. Got the hex nuts that drive the tires off. The pins out. So I'm going to grease these bearings. Pull the servo off. I might pull this little box out. I mean, I don't have the top piece for it. I'm not planning on running the truck in water, so I really don't care if the receiver's exposed or not. I guess dirt, but nothing a little brake clean can't fix. Pull this off, pull the drive shaft cover off. I guess take the shock towers off and pull the front and rear ends off. Alright, so got the rear end off. I still have to pull it apart, but looks like it was missing a couple screws. I only had to remove the 2 upper screws to get it to slide well, other than the I'm not even sure what this is called. Drive shaft spur gear. Or pinion gear, I guess. Drive shaft. Once I got this off, it pretty much just slid right out. I was trying to get it to come through the bearing, but it didn't really want to. Yeah, those bearings have seen better days, but I think they'll do okay once I grease them up. Anyway, I'm gonna start pulling the shocks off. Figure out how to get into the diff. Probably pull the bumper off, those 4 screws right there. Kind of just winging it, figuring out how it comes apart. Then I'll put it all back together, because I don't want to mix parts up between the front and the back. So, yeah. I guess I'll get started on that then. Alright, well, I just want to show you guys this. I use marine grease on all my stuff because, in my opinion, it's awesome. A few other YouTube producers also, RC YouTube producers also use it, and they, you know, that's where I got it from. So just wanted to show you, there's a bearing in here, and any bearings or anything you want to just put in marine grease. My SCX-10, the axles are filled with marine grease. Anywhere there's a bearing has marine grease. Anywhere there's a moving part that doesn't need friction, obviously, like these are little brake pads, they need friction, so you don't really want to get marine grease on there. But I'm assuming that's for the slipper clutch. But you want to, and they're sealed, but this will help keep them turning nice. I don't know, it must work its way in there, because I mean, you can completely submerge them and your bearings will be perfectly fine in marine. That's what it's made for. So just wanted to show you guys that. Once I put it together and start to sand it, I'll put marine grease on one side, put it together, and before I put all this back on the spring, I will put marine grease on it on the other side. And I mean, it's messy, it's sticky, but that's a good thing. So I'll put this back together and I'll be right back. Alright, so new spare gear on, nice and pretty, much better than this one. It's got a nice groove worn in it. I'm not really sure how you do that, but obviously it's garbage. New spare gear. I went with a plastic one because, I mean, I've got metal pinions, but spare gears are cheap. If I strip out that, it's cheap. You replace this with an aluminum one, well, that's going to move your weak point down somewhere in the drive line. Might not be a cheap spot. So I know spare gears cheap. They're not that hard to replace. If I strip it out, it's not that big of a deal. So anyway, so I got the bottom of the rear end off, I guess would be the term. There's some old nasty grease in the bottom of that, but for the most part in here it is dry. And if you know anything about metal and dry, creates friction, which creates heat, which destroys things, and when you've got things that are moving fast, it's never good. I wish this had a locker in it, but I mean, limited or open dip's okay. It'll work, right? Anyway, so my original plan was to just pull it all apart and pull everything apart in here, but I'm getting a little lazy. So I think I'm just going to kind of fill this with marine grease and grease these up back here, because I do, yep, those are bearings on each side. So make sure grease gets to the bearings on each side. They're nice and smooth. It actually doesn't sound that bad, but I don't know if you guys can even see in there, but yeah, it's almost completely dry. Anyway, I'll do that, and then we get to figure out where all these wonderful screws go. Some of these were mismatched, so I think I can remember. Alright, so got the rear end back together. Got all the joints greased up. Anything that really moves is greased up. I haven't done the shocks yet because I still need to get shock oil, so I'm not going to worry about pulling those apart. They're pretty easy to pull apart, so I don't worry about those yet. So anyway, just gotta screw it back on the chassis and the rear end is done. Oh yeah, almost forgot. I am replacing the motor mount. I ordered the plate, it came with it, plus I noticed that this one is actually missing the little nut that goes in there. So the new one's got a new nut. It also looks like this is different. Don't know why. Slide adjust, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, just gonna pop this bearing over to here, throw it back on the chassis, and bolt the rear end back on. Alright, so I've got the front end off. I mean, other than the steering parts, it's pretty much looks the same as the rear. Pull the bottom end out. I'm sure that, you know, you take those out and the bottom end just pops off just like the rear. Pull this off, lube up the bearing, lube these joints up, bearings. There are 2 bearings in here, I'm assuming, just like the rear. So you'll want to just pop one out if you're doing this too. I'm gonna pop one out, put some marine grease in between them, and put the bearings back on. I don't think I'll have to disassemble as much off the front as the rear because now I know how it comes apart. Servo saver, I guess. Oh, built-in servo saver. There's a spring right there. Doesn't look any higher. Weird. Anyway, I didn't want to disassemble the steering stuff because that's always a pain in. So, anyway, I'm not going to really show anything on this because it's pretty much the same as the rear. Then I'll throw it back on. Alright, so got it all back together. At least the chassis anyway. Still gotta re-oil the shocks. I did put them on the setting that gives it the lowest center of gravity. I don't know if I'll leave it there or not. Put the new wheels and tires on. I figured why not. Probably put the old ones back on to run them on the street for like the first time. Just really, I don't have like a dirt track in my backyard that I can run on this. I've got a crawler track, but probably break it. So anyway, worked on it for a few hours. Still got electronics to go. So shocks, electronics, and it'll be done. It'll be ready to run. Oh yeah, and I gotta paint the body. So, but other than that, it's good to go. Getting closer. And I would keep going, but I'm really tired. So that's gonna be all for tonight. It is, I don't have to work in the morning. It is 3:51 a.m. So I think that'll do it for me. Thanks, guys.